Hello, and welcome to the Woxsen Winner series of interviews. It is not often in a lifetime that we get to meet a true doyen in any field. But doyen is the right word to describe our guest for today. Dr.M.Rammohan Rao is the former director of IIM Bangalore, a dean at the ISB School at Hyderabad, and the former provost of the Woxsen School of Business. He earned his master's at Cornell and his PhD at Carnegie Mellon University. In addition, he has served various government bodies like AICTE, the Ministry of HRD, and NASC, besides SEBI. I could go on and on, but let's move to our interview for today. Welcome back to Woxsen, Dr. Rao.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. Rao, it's said that we cannot teach people to ride a bicycle or a motorcycle in a classroom or by reading a book. Is it possible to teach business in a business school?
See, I would say it's definitely possible because, riding a bicycle or a motorcycle you have to know where the clutch is, where the brakes are, how they work and so on. So in the same way, you try to learn what business is all about and what is the financial structure, what it means in terms of the marketing, the behavioral aspects and so on. But in addition, you're right, they need some experience in terms of the business world. That is why we have summer internship in the 2-year program. In the 1-year program, typically you get students with experience, so they don't need that internship. And also they work on a lot of projects, real life projects, so they get that experience and so on. And one always has to be a little bit careful about experience. I always say experience is useful, but one can also be like a double-edged sword if you don't use it properly, because you think your experience is the world is behaving like what your experience is. Things might have changed and different organizations have different practices and different approaches and so on. You cannot think that what you have done in some XYZ company is the way the world is and so on. And you also need some fresh ideas, and the younger people bring in these fresh ideas, and you need that, not just to go by what the experience has been.
And we are now fascinated by the World Wide Web. It's said that the World Wide Web has more information, more power than all the teachers of the world put together. In that case, do we still require conventional teachers?
See, it is true, World Wide Web has a lot of information. Not all of it is correct, I would say. Most of it is correct though. But you still need teachers who can synthesize and put it in a concise way, because otherwise, for a novice or somebody who's trying to learn, the World Wide Web can be daunting in the sense there's so much information. So you have to condense it, you have to put it in the proper way people understand. Information has been there. They have had books for a very long time, but you still needed teachers. In the same way, you have information on the web, you will still need teachers. But the role of the teachers will be different, that is true. You need teachers, but the role will be different.
And if we can use the power of the IT, do we really require teachers and conventional classrooms? If you can have driverless cars, why can't we have classrooms without teachers?
See, somebody has to mediate the sessions and so on. You will still have teachers, but what is probably more likely to happen, at least in the recent future, let me say, will be blended learning. There will be lots of things that can be learned on the web or on the internet without the intervention of the teacher, or not much intervention of the teacher. But there are lots of material that the intervention of the teacher will be required, where they will have face-to-face interaction with the teacher. So I think you will require teachers, but maybe some of the material will now move to the web, and you will have more blended learning, I would say. There's another aspect about the classrooms. There's been a debate, especially pioneered by, I think, some professors in Harvard. What do universities or what do business schools provide? One is education. Other is the networking opportunities and the opportunities to get good jobs in companies and so on. Nobody has yet figured out how to separate the two out. If the separation takes place, then maybe you will have a different way of learning and so on. So you will still have classrooms as long as both of them are intertwined together, because you need the learning and you need the networking aspect. All are required for a good manager to get a good position for the graduating student.
In your long career in academics, spanning decades, spanning continents, you have observed the trends in business education, and you have also noticed that technology has made a major difference in the way education is delivered. What are your observations about the trends in the past, and how will this move forward in the future?
So if you talk of education, you have to be clear whether you're talking about higher education, business education, or you're talking at the school level also. In the school level in India, we have really not made good progress, although there are a lot of number of private schools who inculcate more learning experience and make students think about different aspects and be innovative and come up with solutions. I'll tell you an incident. At ISB, we get students who are a little older. One year we had a lady who had a 13-year-old son, and he was studying in Mumbai, so she was there in Hyderabad staying in our married quarters. And towards the end of the program, her son had come to visit her. So she was walking around the corridor with her son. Then one of the professors saw her, who had taught her, and said, she introduced him to the professor. He said, the professor said, why don't you take him to class? She said, oh, is it allowed? He said, not usually, but if the professor agrees, you can do that. So that was the end of the conversation. Next day he saw her again in the corridor and said, did you take him to the class? And she said yes. And so the professor asked the student, how was your experience? Classes are 2 hours with 1 hour break. He said he sat through for all the 2 hours, and his remark was, it's amazing they even let the students talk in the class. So that is how our education in school, if you talk at all, then you're put down. Whereas there's no discussion, no learning as such. It's only just whatever the teacher gives, you just have to learn by heart and reproduce it. That's a different thing. We need to fix that. Now, coming to business education, there also I have some opinion, which is we have all these standalone institutes like IIMs, ISB, and to some extent Woxsen, although Woxsen is also changing direction. I feel that you really need universities because you need interdisciplinary education. In a business school, you also need to, some people may be interested in learning some psychology, some may be interested in learning some applied mathematics or operations, some may be interested in learning something about technology, fashion technology or computers. You don't get these opportunities in standalone institutes. My view is what the government has done is a short-run fixing the solution because we have not been able to fix our universities. Universities have a lot of problems. Instead of fixing those problems, we have started standalone institutes which are easy to manage, and they're good institutes and they're top-class institutes. But the education is moving slowly but steadily to more interdisciplinary nature, and you will miss out on standalone institutes. So I think the move by the government to have what they call is 10 plus 10 universities, 10 world-class universities from the government-supported ones like IITs, IIMs, IIITs and so on, and 10 private institutions. I think we need world-class universities. Universities where a lot of discussion and a lot of research is done and people debate, discuss and come up with solutions. I think that is where we have to move towards. I think we're making some strides, but not probably fast enough. But in standalone institutes, especially in business schools, I think the way forward will be blended learning.
You mentioned India. We read these reports that most of our graduates and postgraduates are not employable. Are we getting it wrong somewhere?
We're getting it wrong in the sense, with lots of, privatizing is always, again, there's a good and bad. There are lots of good institutions, private institutions, including Woxsen, which do a good job of training and providing education. But there also attracts people who, as I always say, the dark side of competition is that in terms of education, you get a lot of people who don't provide any education, just give degrees, and people know that such degrees, they don't learn anything, but just because they have a degree in hand, they think they will be able to get jobs and go for it. That is not correct, because you have to, the universities or the institutes should provide good education, and there are several institutes that don't provide good education. And our problem is just because there are some bad elements, quite a few maybe bad elements, we come up with rules that will cater to the bottommost institutes, or just because you can't catch thieves, you think everybody is a thief, and then you behave like everybody is a thief, you put all kinds of restrictions. I think we need to address this problem. I think the way forward will be all the institutes should be made to become more transparent in terms of what education they're providing, what their intake, what it is in terms of placements and so on, so that people can choose with the information provided.
Finally, I wanted to ask you a question which has been intriguing me for long. How is it that some of the most successful business people in history, Ford for example, Rockefeller, or even Bill Gates, never had to go to a business school to be so successful? Do we really require business schools?
No, you do require business schools, because what is taught in business schools is mostly how to manage businesses or organizations and so on. But entrepreneurship is also taught, but probably not as well, or is something that not sure you can teach it well enough for somebody to become an entrepreneur. That's partly probably they must have that inherent drive to become entrepreneurs, and then of course they learn something in the business school that will help. You'll always have people who don't, some of the people who have, say, great poets or great actors, might not have had much of an education. But majority of people, those are the exceptions you're talking about. But most of the people who are, say, managers or executives in the corporate world, or in non-profit organizations, or in academic institutions and so on, would have had that education. And there's always also it's not true that everybody who has education will become good. Just the other way around also happen. Some people who have had a good education may not shine at all. Same way, some people who have not had education may shine and become good entrepreneurs, become very wealthy. But if you look at a lot of people who have not had education, they're probably not doing that well. We always look at the exceptions, and you cannot draw conclusions from the exceptions.
Fascinating as always talking to Dr. Rao. Unfortunately, we have to end here. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Dr. Rao.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back here, and enjoy talking to you. Thank you very much, Arvind.